Hello, everyone! The history of the world, the history of the solar system, and even the history of the universe, all were formed based on strict laws, including forces, constants, and quantum fluctuations. These laws intertwine, influence one another, and support each other, creating everything around us. If you try to separate these elements, the universe would fall into chaos, stars and galaxies would collapse, and even we ourselves certainly wouldn't be able to exist. That's part of the evidence for the harmony between these laws. Even though they're described by different theories and different formulas, they must ultimately share the same origin. So, what is the universe? Really, to us? I don't know. I could use poetic, literary language to describe it because the cosmic cycle is like an eternal symphony, a blend of light and darkness, a place where the delicate threads of the cosmic web seem to stretch endlessly. On the other hand, I could use academic, scientific terms to portray the universe as an incredibly complex and chaotic system shaped by fundamental physical laws, where space-time, energy, and matter constantly interact with one another. Overall, both approaches are valid and both are important. However, in this video, we'll take a different approach, a way of describing the universe where everything around us is both real and unreal, important and unimportant. This is the holographic universe, or the informational universe. The holographic universe isn't just a random idea or a fanciful theory dreamed up by physicists. It's actually a concept derived from research on quantum gravity in black holes, especially studies involving entropy and information. The holographic principle describes the universe we observe as essentially a 3D projection based on information stored on a distant boundary. Even we ourselves and the laws of physics are no exception. Everything is made from information encoded on the two-dimensional surface of the universe. Every particle of matter, every beam of light, and every interaction in space-time is a manifestation of bits of information. It's similar to a video game programmed on a computer. Every blade of grass, every branch, every movement of a character is pre-coded. And if we truly are characters in that game, we wouldn't be able to recognize our own nature. From our understanding, everything seems incredibly complex. A typical human being is a combination of around 10 atoms. A star like the Sun is made up of about 10 atoms, a number beyond imagination. But the real challenge lies in how all those atoms are brought together into dynamic systems, each with unique features and entirely different properties. The history of scientific development has always gone hand in hand with discoveries about nature. At the heart of our understanding lies the search for fundamental laws. A prime example is the discovery of the structure of the atom. The more we study atoms, the more we realize they're made of even smaller components, so small that there's no practical way to observe them directly. It's truly a never-ending journey of deeper and deeper understanding, layer by layer. Each layer is governed by different principles, from classical physics to quantum mechanics. If we had to choose one word to encapsulate all of our understanding of nature and the universe, there's probably no word more fitting than information. Everything is information. A person is born from the information stored in their genes. In fact, it's possible to create a complete human being by cloning a single cell, because every cell contains a full set of genes, like a memory card storing data. If we convert it into standard bits, like the ones we commonly use, the human genome contains about 750 to 800 megabytes. That's less than 1 gigabyte. Yes, that's right, the complete blueprint for a human being fits into just around 0.8 gigabytes of data. As for human civilization, the total amount of data we've created, books, newspapers, the internet, technological devices, and more adds up to around 150 billion terabytes, and it's constantly growing. That's an enormous amount of information compared to the human brain, but in reality, it's nothing compared to the universe. As we've seen in previous videos, black holes encode the information of every string particle that falls into them and store it on the surface of the event horizon. The amount of information is proportional to the surface area of the black hole, not its volume. This is the foundation of the holographic principle. According to this principle, all the information contained within a volume can, in theory, be encoded on a two-dimensional surface. When applied to the universe, it means that the information of everything that exists within space can be stored on its surface somewhere incredibly distant, far beyond human observation. Of course, the universe might not be a black hole as we know it, but it's entirely capable of storing information, much like how a black hole increases entropy. Currently, the universe's entropy is constantly increasing. In fact, it can only increase or remain the same, it can never decrease. Along with that, as entropy increases, information increases as well. And once information grows, the universe demands more memory to store it, so it must continue expanding. Is the universe real, or is it just an illusion? Are the stars and galaxies truly out there? Or are they simply a projection of stored information? These ideas may sound unbelievable, but if you flip the question, why not? A projection containing all information programmed down to every fundamental particle. Everything fits together through algorithms which correspond to the laws of physics. For example, the speed of light is programmed to be 300,000 kilometers per second. However, that fixed number might seem a bit too perfect, so it's as if the universe's programmer intentionally tweaked it just enough to make it seem random. As for particles aside from the heavier ones that make up our bodies, almost all of them move at speeds close to the speed of light. We can't actually see these ultra-small, ultra-fast particles. And when we try to uncover the secrets of the universe, everything becomes more complex than we could ever imagine. Could this be a mechanism intentionally designed to hide the truth, especially when it comes to quantum mechanics? A universe programmed this way sounds a lot like the idea often associated with Elon Musk. But in reality, these are concepts and arguments put forward by some of the most brilliant physicists like Gerard T. Hooft, Leonard Susskind, and Juan Maldacena. They've been researching this topic since the 1980s and 90s. Elon Musk is actually someone who's passionate about science and physics. Even the name Grok AI was inspired by a novel about Martians in which the word grok means deep understanding. Sometimes, while browsing online, you'll see people posting things like Elon Musk believes this or Elon Musk thinks that. It's honestly kind of ridiculous. Now, back to the holographic universe. If the universe is a holographic projection, then what about our consciousness? Some physicists, like Roger Penrose, suggest that consciousness might be linked to quantum effects in the brain going far beyond mere biological information. If consciousness is part of the holographic reality, then it, too, would be encoded on the boundary surface of the universe like musical notes in the symphony of information. But that leads to an even deeper question. Is our consciousness simply a product of information, or is it something beyond control like a flash of light breaking through the speed limit in the cosmic game? It's truly difficult to say anything with certainty. What are you thinking about right now? My question, or are you asking yourself your own? The brain of an adult is made up of around 80 to 100 billion nerve cells. That number is roughly equal to the number of stars in the Milky Way. And somehow, those neurons are what control your mind. This is an incredibly complex system, operating under its own distinct rules, yet our thoughts feel so free. Or at least, they seem free. No, what I mean is, are our thoughts really free? Let me tell you a story. This is a very special story about a planet with a metallic surface, but with water hidden beneath. The planet's strange structure isn't a coincidence. It's actually a defense mechanism. This planet exists in an extremely hostile star system, with 3 massive stars competing to scorch the sky and its atmosphere. To protect itself, the planet formed a shell of iron to shield against the relentless barrage of deadly radiation. Beneath that iron shell lies a deep ocean, with a fairly mild temperature possibly nurturing the most primitive forms of life. Yes, clearly this is a fictional planet, but your mind is thinking about it, imagining it. Is your mind truly free, or is it being guided by my story? In truth, our minds are a lot like radar. It's ready to lock onto anything it picks up. Whether it's something you see, something you hear, or even just a passing thought. That thought can influence us, guide us. But how it's created in the first place, we don't really know. Long ago, Galileo believed that mathematics could be used to explain and predict natural phenomena. Throughout history, generations of astronomers have used math as a tool to forecast the motion of celestial bodies. Now that human knowledge has grown deeper and broader, it's no surprise that people have begun trying to predict everything, even heaven and hell. It's fair to say that all of our understanding comes from discovering rules and patterns. Humans study the universe and uncover the laws that govern it. So, is there a set of laws that also governs our brains? First, let's tackle a question about fate. Why do people believe in fate? One explanation lies in the law of cause and effect when applied to the timeline of the universe. Remember, there's no spiritual element involved here, or at least we won't be discussing that. According to this view, every effect that occurs throughout the universe must have a cause that came before it. And everything that happens becomes the cause of something else. Everything follows a rule, continuous chain? So, it can be inferred that all actions, developments, and events in the future stem from realities that have already occurred, realities that were determined in the past and even in the present. However, keep in mind that the past or present state of the universe is determined by the laws of nature. What the future will be, that's the cause. The outcome is already unfolding continuously, with no way to escape or alter it. In the end, the future is predetermined by what has happened in the past. When we look at a nebula, cloud of cosmic dust, we know that one day this matter will condense into the core of a star. Eventually, that star will explode and collapse when its life cycle comes to an end. This isn't a guess or speculation, it's a law, an unchangeable law of the universe that cannot be altered. It shows us that the future is like a movie with a script that's already been written. This brings up an important question. If the future is already determined by the laws of the universe, then why can't we predict how our own lives will unfold? Clearly, we can only predict the final outcome, not the journey or the events along the way. And sometimes, those events can even affect the final outcome. What causes this? The answer still lies in the concept of laws. Right now, we are governed by the fundamental laws of the universe, like gravity, electromagnetic forces, the laws of light, biological aging, and the law of conservation of energy, among others. But beyond those, we're also influenced by hypothetical or man-made laws such as economic laws, family and social norms, moral and legal systems, political and cultural rules, and so on. There are countless ones. All of these hypothetical laws were created by humans and they can be changed. In reality, these laws are constantly being revised. This means our lives are always in flux, shaped by rules that aren't fixed. It leads to a simple truth. Everyone knows how their fate will ultimately end. But no one can predict what tomorrow will bring. The solar system always operates according to the laws of the universe. You can't change that. But our daily lives are governed by countless rules, most of which aren't fixed. So, how could you possibly predict what tomorrow will be like? And if someone asks you, how did you know that would happen? The answer is, because of the rules. So why can't you predict that other issue? The answer is still the same because of the rules, but in this case, it's because the rules aren't fixed. Give me an exact rule, and I'll give you an exact prediction. The law of cause and effect is built on the foundations of philosophy and physics. Through physics, we understand that every current state in the universe and every event that occurs must have a cause. The appearance of supernatural phenomena or unprecedented events is considered non-physical and, in a sense, not real. That's also why supernatural occurrences only seem to exist in rumors and everyday stories, but are never observed or recorded in the universe itself. The laws of physics and the principle of cause and effect are inseparably linked, just like space and time. If causality doesn't function, then the laws of nature lose their meaning because nothing happens without a reason. Do you know why scientists can predict the exact time of a solar or lunar eclipse, but can't accurately forecast the weather more than a week in advance? It all comes down to the law of universal gravitation. When Newton's formulas are calculated accurately, predictions of solar eclipses can be correct down to the exact minute. In fact, astronomical charts can even provide precise coordinates showing how constellations will shift thousands of years into the future, and you can fully trust that information. On the other hand, when too many different rules govern a single issue, the likelihood of unexpected events increases significantly. And that's exactly what affects weather predictions. The same goes for events in our everyday lives. They're influenced by many unstable, ever-changing rules, and on top of that, even your own thoughts can contribute to unexpected outcomes. Thoughts are both something free and something bound by rules. Imagine you're sitting in a quiet room. Thoughts begin to pop into your head like random notes in a melody with no clear pattern or rhythm. And yet, if you connect them together, you'll notice that all those thoughts revolve around your life, around what you like, what you already know, or what you're searching for answers to. In short, your thoughts can't break beyond certain limits. They feel free, but they're still being guided. Here's another interesting truth. You can't predict what you'll be thinking about in the future. You can try to force yourself to think about something specific, but in reality, that's just your own stubbornness. Right after that, thoughts come and go completely at random, like musical notes rising unconsciously, one after another. So, what exactly is influencing your thoughts? First, let's take a look at a bit of science. Scientists estimate that the human brain can store around 2.5 petabytes of data. That's roughly 2,500 terabytes, or 2,500,000 gigabytes. And believe it or not, that amount alone is enough to paint a fairly complete picture of a person's life. Whether certain experiences happened or not doesn't even matter that much. As for why, it doesn't really matter whether those experiences happened or not. We'll get to that in a moment. If your life were a full 4K movie, then with 2.5 petabytes of data, it would take you around 8 to 9 years of non-stop viewing to watch it all. And if that movie were in standard 108p resolution, the viewing time could be 2 to 3 times longer. That number, in reality, isn't all that impressive. But remember, we spend nearly 50% of our lives just sleeping. So the camera isn't always rolling. Also, the 2.5 petabytes is only a scientific estimate. The brain may be far more powerful than we currently understand. So does the brain, memory capacity, or time itself have any real impact on our experience of the universe? Countless people have talked about time ranging from simple concepts to deeply abstract ones. But at its core, time is still incredibly hard to understand. In this video, we'll take on a new perspective about time. Nothing too deep and nothing overly theoretical. It's simply about experience and thought. What is time? I won't dive into definitions. But there's one question we need to answer. How do we know we're actually experiencing time or simply existing within the timeline of the universe? Is that even an experience at all? And when it comes down to it, does experience really matter if we don't truly understand what time is? Now, let's ask a simple hypothetical question. What did you have for lunch yesterday? Chances are you still remember because that was your experience. But for someone with memory loss, the entire experience of yesterday is simply gone. Think about this before we dive deeper. In your opinion, which is more important, experience or memory? By now, you probably have your own answer. To make things easier to understand, let's think of memory as a type of file stored in the brain. What you did yesterday, that was your experience, and that experience was stored in your brain as a memory file. If, for some reason, you lost that memory, meaning the file was deleted, then your experience of yesterday would no longer exist. It would simply be a completely blank day. Anyone who's ever been drunk will probably understand this. When we wake up after a heavy night of drinking, we often can't remember anything from the second half of that evening. All the experiences, conversations, and actions just vanish into nothing. So, it's fair to say that we live, think, and act entirely based on the files stored in our brains. Well, experience is incredibly important. Once that experience isn't remembered, it becomes meaningless. If you've forgotten everything you ever learned about math, I'm certain you wouldn't even be able to solve 1 + 1. And if you forgot everything that ever happened in your life, you wouldn't even know who you are. Now, let's look at an example to better understand the importance of memory files. Imagine you have a special ability. You can upload, delete, or modify anyone's memories. Let me know if you'd like to keep going or adapt this into a script or story format. At that point, you could easily swap one person's life with another's simply by altering their memories. It might sound far-fetched or complicated, but if memory is just a file on a hard drive, then it becomes surprisingly practical and simple. All we'd need to do is switch the memory files between the two people. After waking up, that person would live the other person's life as if nothing had ever changed. This also proves that memory can exist without actual experience. Whether you believe it or still have doubts, the truth remains memory is the most important thing shaping our lives. It would be terrifying if our powerful brain lacked that 2.5 petabyte hard drive. Of course, we shouldn't underestimate the value of experience. But for humans, preserving memories is absolutely essential, just like a computer storing information. We are living beings who not only have experiences, but also possess memory to store those experiences. But always remember, memory can absolutely exist without experience. Now, back to the question. How do we know if we're truly experiencing time or simply existing within the universe's timeline? The answer is experience. But experience only has value if and only if it's stored as a memory file. If your mind were completely empty, you wouldn't even know you exist. In conclusion, time may very well be a form of information within the universe. Everything, every object, event, and phenomenon that is happening or has happened can be thought of as smaller files stored on a server with infinite storage capacity. Now think about your life, my life, and everyone else's. What we go through, are those truly experiences? Or are they simply memory files uploaded from the universe's server? Whether this is real life or just a dream, it would all be meaningless if none of it were stored in our memory. When you really think about it, biological life is somewhat like a machine. All of a species' genetic information is stored in its genes. Simply put, it's like a memory card that holds all the data of a living organism. In that sense, Earth or even the entire universe can be seen as a vast network where every file has its own role, contributing to the grand performance of space and time. At this point, the question of experiencing time becomes even harder to grasp. Because even our own lives, whether we're truly experiencing them or not, is something we can't say for certain. If you are a file, and I am a file too, then if that's true, I hope all of us have good memory with high capacity and lightning fast loading speeds. Because one day, we'll all forget our own experiences, whether those experiences really happened or not.